Hi, everyone. My name is Matt Schuessler, and I want to welcome you and thank you for coming to my session. Today's topic is 3 ways to add BI to your next Power Canvas app. And my creative title is "A Chart is Worth 1,000 Words." I'm not that creative at fancy titles, but that is what we're here for. All right. Next, a little bit about me. So I am a Power Platform Solution Manager at a company called Canviz, based out of Kirkland, Washington, neighbors to Microsoft there. And been in the industry about 15 years. Was a long-time Sharepoint guy, but was always a big fan of creating BPM solutions with workflow and forms and that stuff. So it's kind of a natural pivot when the Power Platform came out to, kind of pivot and focus on that. And that's a suite of tools that I love working with. I am St. Louis born and raised, since this is the St. Louis version of the Global Bootcamp. Made my slide a little bit more St. Louis-esque. So we got the Cardinals and my high school, my my college, and yeah, the Blues. Yeah, and so you can find me on Twitter at Matt Schuess, and I have the hashtag Power Addict because big fan. That's a hashtag that if you want to get a lot of people's attention in the Power Platform, if you tag it with that, you'll wake up a lot of people. So that is me. You can see my little picture up there. Okay, so today's topic. So this is what we're going to go over. So we're going to talk about out-of-the-box charting controls that you get with Power Apps. We're going to talk about the Power BI tiles control, how to bring Power BI into your Power App, and then we're going to talk about a suite of community charting components that my company developed and is just giving away to the community, just a community contribution, open source on GitHub. You can be a part of the, you can help us change them, refine them, make them better. It's truly a community component. We just threw out the name there to give it more of a specific title. All right, so talk about out-of-the-box charts first. So when you open up your Power App, you'll see under the charts, oops, I bumped something. You'll see the charts option here, which shows you what your out-of-the-box options are. So we have column, we have, for column, yeah, that's, standard, bigger values, easily paints that picture. And then you have a line chart used to kind of, a lot of times with a timeline and, show up to 2 to 7 series of data. And then a pie chart, if you want to show pieces of a whole. I don't claim to be a Power BI expert, so this is going to be more about how to add them, how to make them dynamic, and not so much about what chart to use when and how to build them out that way. On those out-of-the-box options, they're pretty limited, which is why I wanted to talk about other options today. But these are just a couple snapshots of the properties panels for those out-of-the-box charts. And we'll go in those. We'll take a live demo here in a minute. But what you'll see here, starting on the left, basically a couple different properties. For a line chart, you can basically decide whether you want to turn on your your labels or not, how many series of data you want to see, a couple things about the angle of your labels, but really basic. There's not too much else you can do with that. So same for kind of pie chart, labels, where do you want them positioned, in or outside of the pie, things like that. And, so we'll go through and take a look at some of these. And then lastly was the column chart, which again, gives you a few different options. But it's great because you can, the pro here is that they're so super quick to deploy. You just hit insert, grab the chart, it's there, it's got some dummy data in it. You can quickly just add some static data and you're off and running. That's a great thing. Limit is just the feature set. You're just, you're limited on what you can style, what you can kind of do with it. So some of the just really just some of the UI, the displaying of it is a little bit of a limitation there. Okay. So let's go ahead and take a look at those in action. Let's get some live demo because I know the slides can be, not as much fun. So click over here. I got a Power App going. Okay. So let's go ahead and start this out. So right now I have on visible. I am going ahead on this screen and I'm creating a data set to work with. So if we look at our unvisible property, so basically I've just created a collection called playoff data from a data source called playoff data. And that data source is actually coming from, if we switch over here to our data sources, I have an Excel spreadsheet on my OneDrive, and that just has a table with playoff data. So I since this is the St. Louis leg of the boot camp, and the Blues won the Stanley Cup last year, that's where a lot of my data sets are coming from. I was able to pull down some data from the playoffs of last year. So because we're pretty proud of that. So anyway, okay, so I have a collection. That's what we're going to be using. So first step, if you want to add some out of the box charts, you'll just go to the insert and you go to charts, and then you'll choose a, let's see, let's start out with a, which one was I going to start out with? Yeah, a column chart. Okay. So you just click it, drops it on, bam, you already got one there. So you want to start styling it. So if you select the whole chart, you might be confused because you don't see the options, the whole component. Let's switch over here so you can see. It drops this little chart component. So what you want to do is click again to select just the chart itself, and then you can kind of start seeing the properties. So right now the items property is just this column chart sample, which is just a data sample that comes, it's native behind the scenes. You can't really do anything with it. So what we want to do is switch this out. So what we want to go ahead and do is change this to our collection of data. So collection, and what do we call that? We call it playoff data. Okay. So now we've binded it to our data source, and so real quick, at the bottom here, you can kind of see I just dropped a data table on so you can see that data source of what we're working with. Now, select that chart again, click where I don't want to spend too much time, but this is just, how to configure these. So let's go ahead and, all right, so let's decide, well, let's switch over to the advanced. And here we can see that items property, which I just set. And then we have our labels. So right now it just arbitrarily grabbed, but we want to switch that to team. So then across the bottom here, I know it's kind of hard to see. Let me zoom in a bit. You can see the teams in play here. Now, this is where you can kind of see some of the UI limitations I was hinting at. There's not a lot of, I mean, you can move some things around, but still it's kind of limited. And then we need to select our data. So for our series data, let's grab GF, which is our goals for, and then let's select GA for our goals against. Now you'll notice nothing showed up after the second selection there. Well, we have to go back to the properties here, and we got to tell it how many series of data we want to see. So as soon as we switch this over to 2, then we'll see 2 series for each team, which is the goals for and the goals against. So I don't want to spend too much time. So again, there's just a couple other properties, so you can make a gap in between your data, which you can slowly see that it's adding some more. That's gap in between. Yeah, you can do different stuff with angles of the labels. So now they're straight up and down again. Okay, so that's yeah, so that's out of the box bar chart. So I'll just go ahead and quickly just check out the other options we have here. I'm going to shrink this a bit. We'll go ahead, we'll add a pie chart. Again, really easy to add. It's got its out of the box data. Just go ahead and do the items, and we can check our collection, and then we can go to the advanced, and for our labels, we've got to choose our teams, and then let's choose, let's see, for pie, let's choose our wins. Okay, so now we can see a selection of a pie chart of total wins, and obviously the Blues won that year, so it has the biggest portion of the pie, as well as Boston in second. So again, a few different options for, border thickness and, where we want our labels, inside or outside. Okay, and then third, choose the pie chart. Oh, I'm sorry. I did that. Go ahead and choose our line chart. Okay, and then let's just change that data set to also be our playoff data. Let's say we want to see 2 series, and go over here. Okay, so let's choose our team as the labels, and then let's choose again kind of goals for and goals against. And it's a little small, but yeah, so you can start to see some kind of ratios there. So any questions at this point? Anything coming in about out of the box charts? Okay, just feel free to chime in. So yeah, I just have another example where I'm for out of the box charts. This time I have a different data set, and let's go ahead and we're going to click this button. Instead of on visible, we're going to create it from Excel. And here we can just see basically we have some products and some revenues from different years. And I've configured these charts to go ahead and look at that data source called product revenue, which again is just another is another Excel spreadsheet right now sitting in our data, our OneDrive. So a couple of different options, different colors, values on top, and things of that nature. So I just wanted to give another example there. Okay, so that is our out of the box chart. So let's switch back over here and talk Power BI. Okay, so we can also integrate easily Power BI into our Canvas Power App. So, under the charts, you've probably already seen it. So there's something called a Power BI tile. And so, yeah, there's lots of features there, more robust. So basically lots of visualization options because, basically what Power BI can generate, you can bring into your Power App. There's dynamic filtering we can do from the Power App, which we'll talk about, which I think is, yeah, that's a big key there. So data security is maintained between Power BI and when it's sucked into your Power App. Easy to implement, and you can have all kinds of different data sources because it's really limited by what Power BI can do. Okay, so requirements and/or limitations. So the big thing with Power BI, you're like, well, I'll definitely go use that. The problem is that if you want to share this this tile inside of your Power App, the people are going to need to have a Power BI license in order to view that data, and so that I believe is like a $10 license fee. But so that's a key. So if this Power App was just for you, then you could certainly view it and you could do it just fine. It's just when you start sharing Power BI data sources or reports or dashboards out, that's when this feature comes in. You'll see this big prompt come up here. So other than the license, You just need to share out your dashboard with the folks that are going to be able to see this. So from Power BI, you need to do the sharing to your audience. Okay. And then a couple tips when using Power BI tiles. So again, apps. So again, the security is maintained between the two products. So that's good to know. Everybody's going to be asking that question: Is the data maintained? Is the security maintained? So the answer is yes there. Next up, a performance thing is that it's recommended because of the performance load your app is going to take, that they really only recommend having less than 3 tiles loaded at the same time in the app. And we'll talk about how you can dynamically load and unload those tiles so that so you can have as many as you want there. You just pick and choose which ones are loading and which ones are not, and you can easily turn those on and off. And then lastly, we can pass in parameters so that we can do dynamic filtering from within the Power App and pull back data with a filtered data set. So that's a great one too. Okay, so now for the fun part, let's go ahead and do a little demo of this. Okay, so we'll switch back over to our Power App. Okay, yeah, that had already saved. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and delete it. All right, so we have a blank screen here. Didn't do anything fancy, so we'll go over here to our chart and then our Power BI tile. Okay, and so basically, you know what? Just decided I want to go ahead and show this from a Power BI starting point. So actually, let me go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and show you what you need to do from a Power BI standpoint. Fire that guy open. Okay. So in my workspace, I have a couple things going on. So if you just want some first off, if you want some dummy data that you can easily use, if you go over to actually, let's hold that thought for a second. So basically, there's some data resets. Oh, actually, it's under get data. That's right. So if you want to do get data, I just wanted to point out that you can go ahead and there's the sample area where it can pull in all kinds of data sets where you can learn and work with. And that's what I did here to grab an IT analysis. So if you go ahead and hit samples here, I chose this one and it just creates a whole data set for you, plus visuals and all kinds of stuff so you can see what's possible. So when you click that, you'll get something like this. Actually, let's go down to the reporting. I'm sorry, reporting. So anyway, what I'm trying to do here is show the building blocks of what needs to happen. So if someone hands you a Power BI report or you build one up, you're not quite there yet. So what you do is on the individual reports, what you need to do is you need to first pin whatever visual you want to a dashboard. And so if you hover over one of these, you can just say pin visual, and then what it will do is if you go over here under your My Workspaces to the dashboard section and you click on the applicable dashboard, you'll see down in the left-hand corner, I've already pinned this visual to the dashboard. And that's one of the foundations of how to get this to work. So what I'm trying to say is you'll only see the visuals that have been pinned to the dashboard. Okay, so now if we come back over to Power Apps, and you have dropped on your Power BI tile, to configure it, you need to choose the workspace where your dashboard lives. So in my case, it's my workspace. And you need to choose the dashboard, and we'll choose, let's see here. Yeah, choose IT spend analysis. And then you'll need to choose the tile. And this is the name of the visualization in your dashboard. And so go ahead and so you can check out a few of these. You can yeah, they're all accessible to you. The one I was dealing with before is this scatter chart here. Okay, so now that's as simple as it is to adding a tile there. So if it's shared out, if it's yeah, you're good to go. You can show this, and so yeah, it's a static. It's a static. Well, it's not static, as in, but we'll get to the advanced filtering here in a second. Okay, so let's talk about a few of the properties that are in play here. Okay, so some of the key ones are, okay, so tile URL. So this is a key one to know. So basically, after you've done that connection using the little wizard, basically what it does is it puts this URL into the tile URL box. And this is where the dynamic filtering is going to come into place. But in theory, you could just get this URL from Power BI and stick it in there yourself, and it would work there. So that's an important. The second one I want to talk about property is the, load Power BI content. Now this is the value that you can turn on and off, and I'll demo this in a minute. But if you have multiple, actually I'll just go ahead and show it here in my final. Well, on second thought, I'm gonna go back. Yeah, so that's where you can turn off. It's just a true or false, and basically tells you whether it should load it or not. So if this is set to false, then the control's still there, but it's not going to load anything. As soon as you set it to true, it's going to go pull the data. So that's another key one. And then thirdly, one other value that you're going to want to know about is the Power BI interactions. And basically what this does is that if I want to if I click on this, it'll bring me to the Power BI dashboard itself and take us out of Power Apps and into Power BI. So if you don't want that to happen, we just need to toggle that on and off. So if you go ahead and click it right now, it's gonna open it up in Power BI for more advanced interactivity. So if we go ahead and click that and just say Power BI interactions is false, and you hit play here. Yeah, not going to go anywhere. So those are three key properties you're going to want to know about with this. Okay, so let's go over to my Power BI, my other screen here, and take a look at this. Okay, so first off, you can set the title to be dynamic. If you want to have one control where you swap to different visualizations, you can do that. So if I click here, you can see in the tile URL, I've added a variable. And so that way I can dynamically change that variable. If we click on the button where I do that, I am setting the variable, and I'm actually concatenating two different things, the tile URL, and then something that I'll show you in just a second, I'm concatenating with a different variable called team, because that's where I'm going to use the filtering. So let's go ahead, choose Alt, and click that. Okay, so now the tile has been, the variable has been set. The tile URL variable has been set. So, but then why am I not seeing anything? Well, that's because I am dynamically setting the load PBI content, or the, so if we go ahead and hit that, it'll start pulling in the visualization. And again, so that's the, load Power BI content property that I'm setting to true or false. And so what I'm doing there is basically I'm just, I set by default the var load PBI to false. And then I just, with each click, it turns it on. It does the opposite with the exclamation point, or bang, I believe some people call it. So it'll just turn it on and off. So that way you can control how many you have showing at a time. Okay, so then let's talk about filtering. So for filtering, oops, go ahead and, so the syntax for filtering, sorry, I closed the wrong things, is basically going to be, I have, sorry, bear with me here for a second. Didn't have a good way to show what the, or actually, okay. So basically what it's looking for is to add the following, to tag, it's a query string parameter. So what we were going to do is here's basically what I'm going to append to the tile is an and filter. So, if there, because there's already a question mark in the tile URL, if I come here, we already have the question mark value, or the question mark right here, question mark dashboard ID. So with the query string parameters, you just, the first one has a dashboard, or I'm sorry, the first one has a question mark, and then any other query string parameters need to be added with an and symbol, an ampersand. So yeah, so then the next thing, so and filter equals, and then you choose your data source, and then you choose your property, your filter property. So in my case, it was the team column. And then you use EQ, not the equal symbol, but EQ. And then I am sticking in the name of the team. And so I'm setting that to be a variable so I can change this dynamically. And there's more than one way to do this for sure. But this is the way I'm doing it. So if I go ahead and then click on that, you can see on that button, you can see that what has happened is it's filtered. So if I come here and choose data, you can see what now that variable is. So we have our tile URL, and actually, so that's not quite the visualization I wanted. But it has appended, again, this filter query at the end. So we can do that just one way, so I can switch from the blues to the Bruins to the Stars. And you could do all kinds of stuff. If this was an ID number, you could have a slider where you switch, IDs, and then of course you can remove it or set it to blank, and show everything. So that is how I'm doing dynamic filtering on this guy. Down here we just had okay, actually. All right, so here I have, I forgot, so this is my little debug to turn on what the value of that PBI URL is. So if I go ahead and hit that, you can see now the full tile URL. So we see the and filter, playoff data, team equals St. Louis Blues. And this is just what the var team, what's stored in that variable. So now you can see how it works out. Okay, so that was probably pretty a little fast. Guess I don't know if there's any questions at the moment. Kind of flying through. Okay, so let's move on to the third and final type of charting options. Okay, so the Canviz company, my company, built these charting components that we're sharing out for everyone on GitHub, and there's there's 9 different ones. So and they're free and open source, and free to use and extend, and no branding, no anything like that. Just community contributions here. So you can see a couple previews of these. So what kinds do we have? So we have a pie chart, a solid gauge, a funnel, a line chart, bar chart, a radar, a scatter, candlestick, and a Gantt chart. So a lot more options available to you, no additional licensing, and completely customizable. The back end here they're all SVGs that we render behind the scenes. So really quick and optimized for this type of thing. So I'm going to take you through how we can add those. But first, actually, let's see how you get a hold of them. So we have a GitHub repo here where there's the repo URL, and here's our quick start guide, which is also there. And so I'm going to switch over and show you those websites. Okay, so if you go to the GitHub repo, this is what you'll find. We have the quick start guide is great, and it's going to take you through how to do everything here. But if you scroll down here, you can do a little bit of reading about it, see that cool GIF we made again, and then click on the quick start guide. to check it out. Now the quick start guide has how to add, and we're going to go through this step by step, how to add these charting components, how to configure them, how to do different data integration, limitations, etc. Okay, so let's go ahead and go back to our slides. Okay, yeah, so it's demo time. All right. So let's pull our Power App up. Okay, so let's first talk about how to get these into our Power App. So give me a second here. All right. Okay, so before we get ahead here, all right, so first you need to open up your Power App and you need to download the chart, which it's in the quick start guide, basically right here. So let's scroll down. So as you're going through this, you make a new app, tablet or phone, and then a required feature, you want to make sure that the components feature is turned on. And just to be clarified, these are not PCF components. These are just your standard components. I'm not sure. Yeah, they're not the PCF controls. They're the standard components. So make sure that's on. And then what you want to do is download this MS app file, and that's what's contained there. So let's go ahead. So I downloaded it. So once you're at a new screen and you've downloaded it, so what you do here is come under custom and you're going to do import component. And then once you do that, real simple, you'll see under your components tab, two components, one called chart and one called Gantt chart. And the one called chart handles all eight of the different charts. And Gantt just has a slightly different schema makeup, so we had to split that out into a separate component. So so once they're there, then okay, so how do we get them on a screen? So then let's go back over to our screens, and I have blank screen here. Back to custom and say either choose chart or Gantt chart. Another way to do it is using this plus sign on the left, which is a newer. So you can go to under new and custom, and you'll see the two here. Then you can just drag it on. And you could drag the Gantt chart on as well. Make this a little smaller. Okay, so then you're ready to roll. You're ready to customize, change the data, all kinds of stuff like that. So, okay, so let's talk about how to do that. Okay, so a couple key properties. So once you select the chart component, couple key properties. Okay, the first one is the type. So, and this is, you don't have to take notes or anything. This is all going to be in the quick start guide. So this is where you type what kind of chart it is. So, default is a pie, but what if you want a line? You type in line and there it switches to the different type of chart. You type in bar. Now the default data is going to, that's what's making it look, poor. It was set up for a certain one, or so. Just wanted to point out. So solid gauge, I always spell that wrong. Okay, so you can see how easy it is to switch between types. So then let's talk about colors. So if you click on the colors property here, basically it's got an array of different colors, and so you can switch out for HTML hex codes any type of colors you want. There's lots of websites that have templates, color templates that you can just grab and then paste in here. And yeah, so that's how to understand how to change the colors. You'll see where it comes into play, but this is where you set up your color scheme. Let me go ahead and remove the Gantt for now so we can get this a little bigger. Okay. Okay, so then we have our tile. I got getting tongue-tied between tile and title. Power BI tile and then title. So how to go ahead and change these properties for the title we have a lot of different properties. And so this is just where you change the text. And of course, this can be dynamic. But if you go ahead and make this a little smaller so we can kind of see these in action. Okay, so yeah, I don't know, products. And you can see it changing on the fly. You can change the height, you can change the padding, you can change all kinds of different things. So if we want to make this bigger, so 30. So that's how we can change all kinds of different styling for the title. And the same goes for the subtitle, which is beneath. Or if you just don't want to show it, you can do that as well. I'm going to show you back just on the quick start guide. So basically, we were working with solid gauge, and so here we have. So it'll show you the syntax, and for all these type of options, this is the schema for changing the options, the key, and then a value. Yeah, and all those options you can choose will be listed down in here. So we can choose the item gap between items or the minimum radius, etc., as well as a bunch of different colors of all kinds of different things. So really, there's all kinds of customization you can do. All right, so the legend, of course, as well, whether you show it or not. So if you don't want to show the legend, you can just say false, turn it on and off, say true. Okay, and where it's getting its source from something called labels, and we'll see that in the data property, which is one of the most important. And so if we go ahead and click on data here on the left, so you'll see, so this is how the data is made up. So this is just a static. If you're using static data, something like this would work. So we have our legend and our data labels, and then our data. So if you're working with static data, you just follow this format to go ahead and make your changes. I have some better examples here. We're going to show where I've done some things like that. So let's go ahead and switch over to my gauge example. And you can see, oh, it's different already. So what have I done so far? So other than changing some sizes, widths, titles, let's go ahead and look at title here. Let's go. Okay, so let's mess with a few settings. So we have key. So you just drop in what the name of the option was and then the value. So if we go ahead and change, makes skinnier the minimum radius, or actually, I'm sorry, makes the radius of it larger or smaller. So you pick out what looks good for you and then the gap in between. So if you see the white space has gone away versus even bigger, so you find what you like there. Okay, so let's get to the important stuff. Data. Okay. Static data is great, but most likely you're going to want to do something dynamic because, yeah, let's just be honest. You're going to want to be pointing at a data source, and if people add new entries, new records, you want that to update dynamically. So what have I done here? Okay, so we have this collection called playoff data, which we can review real quick just to make sure. So we go over here to collections, playoff data. Basically just data for all the teams in the playoffs, goals against, goals for, in a tabular fashion, and that's the key here. Okay, so what I did is I did a for all, and at first I just had a for all column playoff data, and then just said give me the team, and but then here, let's go ahead and let's show a few of these things here. So for all items in our collection, give me the team, and let's see. Take that. Sorry, I wanted to not lose my whole example here. Put a comment around this. Oops, come on. Okay, so all right. So basically, I'm getting all the for all the teams. I'm looping through that collection and showing the teams for both the labels and the legend. And for the data, I'm also using a for all and getting the net penalty kill percentage. But that might not be very visually appealing to your users. So that's where I came in, and then I put in the filter, because I said basically, okay, instead just show me teams that have more than 7 wins. So we'll erase all that. And comma. Okay, so I'm like, all right, so that's much better. So okay, so going back to the data. So that is one example of how we can dynamically grab data and put it in this. So if we go ahead and see, what this looks like here, let's go ahead and grab this table. I'm sorry. Okay, or actually, I wanted to grab this guy. Okay, so as you can see, it's grabbing all the values and putting it in, creating a table with all of the values of the net penalty kill percentage. Okay. All right, let's see. What else did I want to show there? Okay. All right, so let's just show a couple other of these guys in action. Let's see. Got to watch the time because I want to show the Gantt chart, which is a different. So here we have a pie chart, and we got all kinds of different options going on. Come on, slide down. Okay, so we can turn the data labels on and off, angle, inner radius, the inner circle, change that up. This one can also be changed into a semicircle, like that. Again, all types of different options there. And then again, for the data, same type of schema, except this time I chose to show wins versus the other option. So again, I just looped through a filtered collection where only show me the teams that have wins above 7. All right, so let's talk about the Gantt chart. Okay, well, first I'll show a data source. So this is actually looking at a Sharepoint data source. And go ahead here, go ahead and edit data, so it brings up our data source. Okay, so I made a Sharepoint list called project tasks. And here we have the task name, when it started, when the task should start, when it's ended, what the name of the project is, who it's assigned to. You can have more columns. These are the ones I thought up of. So we have a whole list of tasks for one project called Azure Ice Cream, and then we have another one list of tasks called Contoso Creamery. Yeah, I came up with those names. I think they're pretty good. Okay, so now that you've seen the data source, so let's come back over here. Okay, so again, a lot of the options and properties were dynamic, or were static. So here we have where I'm going to show you how to do a lot of dynamic things. Let's go ahead. So I've dropped the Gantt chart on here, just not filled with data at the moment. So let's go ahead and let's just click update. Okay, so now we can see the Gantt with our dynamic data. Okay, so we have, let's talk about these different options. Go ahead. Okay, so here we have an option. Actually, I'm sorry, I want to go in the data. Take a look at what the data is looking for. Okay, so I do a for all, and I have a collection of filtered project tasks, and with their title. Same thing for their row labels. And then for the intervals, I have for all of those tasks, and then I basically fill out what it's looking for, which is a start, meaning the start date and end, So these are my SharePoint columns. Color index, which is that index of colors that we saw before. It's matching those up, and then a process number, which is what rows that going to be on. So I kind of went through that fast, but we'll kind of go through it here. So, sorry, let me go back there for a second. Yeah, okay. So first off, I wanted to be able to switch what project we're talking about because we have multiple projects here. So I have I made a list, a dynamic list. Let's go set here. Let's see, where did I do this? Probably on the on visible on this. Let's talk about the on visible on this page. Okay, so first, I built a collection called project tasks from our SharePoint data source. So that's just our raw collection of data that's got everything in it. And then I wanted to build out the values for just the project. Oh, I did not want to do that. Sometimes you know how the, okay. So then I created another collection which had from this first collection, and I said, give me a distinct list of the project names. And I'm using that as the data source for this drop down here. So that's how I dynamically build that data source. Okay, and so then this is just, we're creating a variable, setting it to today, or our variable today. And I just want to call this today function once. And I'm formatting it in a short date using the text function. And this is basically just getting what's today's date in a short format, and because that's what the schema wants to see. So 11/4. So here's today's date, and we'll get to why I'm doing that, because I want the chart to always start with today's date versus, when you drop it from, uncustomize it, it's not going to be from today's date. It's going to start from whatever static date the developers had put in there. So then I'm also setting a project name, and I'm just saying, okay, give me the first project name in that unique list of product names. And then I'm setting a default scope, show me the month view, a default step, which is basically how, if you choose weeks or months, how big of a gap do you want to see, like every 3 months, every 3 weeks. So I'm setting that, and then a duration being, okay, what is our from today, how far out? 90 days. That's what I'm setting as the default here. So there's some defaults, and then I'm setting an end date variable. And I'm doing all this so that I can have, so it can be dynamic and not just have static stuff. So let's see where I use all these things. So if we go ahead and hit, click on our chart, click on our options. Okay, so the Gantt type, so the var scope, so this is set to month right now, but here I can change that from weeks or months. And so if we set it to weeks, and well, actually we got to go ahead and hit update. Choose down here. var scope is now set to week. And then, so that's how, and then for the step, which is how many weeks or months do you want to show at a time? So I'll show this, and then I'll show the controls. So that's where we have the step there. When do you want the Gantt chart to start? So that option, and so we want to set it to our variable of today. And then when do we want Gantt to end, the scope to end, the end date. So now that I have all the options set with properties, then I can go ahead and hit controls here and let people switch around what different views they want to look at. So right now I had switched it to weeks and hit update. So now first we see, and it's stepping ahead, showing every 3 weeks. So week 1, week 4, week 7. But I just want to see every week. So go ahead and hit update there. So now it's showing every week. So let's go ahead and hit back to months and update that. Okay, so now I'm seeing every month, and we're seeing 90 days out, but my tasks don't go 3 days out. So let's go ahead and switch projects and update. Okay, So you can see, so here, making, the point was to make it very dynamic, let people choose the view they want to see, change all the different options. This is my debugging data, which I just have on for you guys. So we can see right now, when I make a change, what the different variables change to, and things like that. And here's my data set source in case you were interested. So let's see. All right. I think that might be about it. Let's see here. So in the slide deck, which is available, I have links to all kinds of different resources I use to build all. So from how to embed the controls to how to filter that, use dynamic filtering, the GitHub repo, all that kind of good stuff is found in the resources, as well as you can always reach out to me and I can help, if you stumble. But feel free to go out there, check them out, comment, contribute, suggest things that could make them better. We've already had a lot of MVPs and community people come out and say, oh, I think that this would really help make them better, and go ahead and do it, and we'll just make an even better community project. So I hope you found this useful, and we'll have a few extra minutes for some questions or chat. Let's see here.
Great session, Matt. I'm not seeing any questions in the chat window.
All right. Is there anything else anybody wants to see again in the demo? We could see if there's anything I hadn't played around with.
Hi, Ashok here.
Hi.
If you can show me that how you bind Sharepoint list to this chart.
Sure thing. Yeah. So we click on the chart and we'll view the data. Sorry if I went over this too fast, but the C labels, which I think should be named R labels for row, but so these are our row labels here. So basic.
Sorry, maybe I'm interested in connection. So how did you?
Okay, sure. So if you click over here to this little guy, this data thing, and go ahead. So this shows what's existing connections, but basically you can type in, this is where you can make connections to any of the data sources that Power Apps can connect to. If we just go into here in connectors, you can see a handful of them, but if you just type in Sharepoint, and then click on it here. So I already have a connection, but if I wanted to add a connection to a different Sharepoint site, so I'd hit add connection. And then if it's SharePoint Online, you'd choose the connect directly cloud service. If you needed to do on-premise, then you'd choose this using an on-premise data gateway.
Yeah, I get it now. So the next question maybe, sorry, I'm just cutting off. I understand now how you got it. The next maybe you treat like this is your dev environment and you want to move the same thing to production. So is that possible, or do we need to recreate them in the production site?
Yeah. So if we come out to make.powerapps.com here, where it has our apps listed. So there's a couple ways to do things, but one of the best ways, so if we go here and we choose our app and we choose on details, you can do an export package. Now that'll export the whole app and any associated flows, so you can name your package. And so if this is the first time that you've moved it to a new environment, change the import setup from update to create as new. And Yeah, so it'll export this package, and then on the new environment where you're moving to, you'll just go ahead and under apps, you'll see import Canvas app, and you'll just select it. It's going to create a zip file for you.
So if you use any dynamic variable or any variable, so you have to change it, right? So once you deploy, you need to change it.
So at this time, doing this method, what you'd need to change would be that if your SharePoint if the connections you were using were pointing at a non-production source, you would you'd open it up in your new environment, and you would just, leaving everything alone, you would just delete the connections to a dev data source, and you'd make a new connection to your production data source. And if all the columns and stuff were the same and the names were the same, it would just be seamless, just like that.
Gotcha. So I mean, next question. Once you have this page ready or this chart ready, so you want to show this in multiple other third-party systems. So can this be showed in an iframe, or do you need a separate login for this?
So the answer is yes, you can view it in other mediums. Power Apps can be embedded in Teams channels. So if you wanted to add this to a team channel as a tab, you could do that. I mean, the key here is that it's only for, you're only going to be able to share this internally to your company. Power Apps doesn't have guest users or anything like that.
Gotcha.
So you need to share it to whoever has access using the share. And so once it's shared, then you can, so like I said, you can put it in Teams. You can embed it in a SharePoint Modern page. There's an app in a SharePoint Modern page where you could add it. There's something called a Power Apps portal, which is an external facing website that you can expose some apps in. Although I think those are just model driven at this time. Yeah, so you have a few options.
Yeah, if it is not Microsoft and third-party application want to show this report on their homepage or their.
I don't think that's possible.
Okay. Thanks for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great questions.
I think that's all from me.
Great, thanks. I think we just got about 2 minutes. Any other general, just Power Apps questions I'll help you with? I mean, I'll be around. You can always hit me up on the team, the conference team.
All right, if there are no more questions, I'll go ahead and stop recording.